Alright, welcome back to the Recipe Analyst. Today I'll be making chicken ballotine from Texture Over Taste by Joshua Weissman. To start, I crush the garlic to make it easier to remove the skin, and I do this to prepare it to get grated on the microplane, but really you don't have to remove the skin or the paper because when you grate it on the microplane, the paper doesn't go through. And I ended up using 6 or 7 cloves of garlic, and I grate it into this bowl, which is gonna house all of the other filling ingredients for the chicken. I rinse off my herbs, so that's parsley and sage, and then I chop them up before transferring each to the bowl with the garlic. So I use 2 tablespoons of parsley, and I removed the sage from the stems and chopped it up as well. And I also use 2 tablespoons of the sage. Next, I use 1 teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of black pepper, half teaspoon of cayenne, and then I didn't have any ground fennel, so I put 2 tablespoons into a bowl and crushed it up a little bit using the end of a wooden spoon. And I added that to the filling mixture before mixing it all together. Now I set that aside and got my chicken ready to be filled. And to do that, I removed any excess skin or fat, and then I removed the bone. And to do that, I cut alongside the bone and kind of just cut around it until it came out. You try to leave as much chicken in the chicken as possible, so you might want to cut alongside the bone vertically like this, and then remove any cartilage as well, and you'll be left with a boneless but skin on chicken thigh. Next, I fill each chicken thigh with the herb mixture, and I distribute it as evenly as possible before rolling each one up. So I think it's best to go in this direction, obviously, and probably the thick end to the thin end. And then I have some kitchen twine off to the side so that I can tie each one up in 3 spots, so 1 in the middle and 1 on each end. Probably want 7 or 8 inches of the twine to give you plenty of length to tie each one up. And I just went with a simple double knot to keep things nice and easy. So you definitely want to cut your twine a couple inches longer than what I did on these first few. And for the rest, I got some longer twine to make it easier. And then I just cut the excess twine before I moved on to the next step. And that next step is to pat dry each piece of chicken with paper towel to make it nice and dry before I season it with some salt and pepper. The recipe says to season them fairly lightly, so that's what I tried to do, but if you like yours a little bit more seasoned, feel free to add a little more salt and pepper here. Next, I add some vegetable oil to a cast iron skillet just to coat the bottom and get that heated up till it's just about smoking before I can add the chicken to it. And here I'm separating some thyme so that I can add that once the chicken is all browned. And once that oil is smoking, I add each piece of chicken, seam side down, and I cook them for 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Now I'm separating some butter for the basting at the end, and once each side is golden brown, I can turn them, and I ended up turning them 3 times so that each side is browned. And once all the sides are brown, I can add the butter as well as the thyme. And then once the butter is mostly melted, I start basting each piece of chicken with that butter for about 30 seconds. And after I'm done basting, I put it in the oven to bake for about 20 minutes or until the chicken is cooked through and registers 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So what did I think of this recipe? I really liked it. There's a lot of flavor that comes through from the herbs and the garlic in the filling, and despite the outside not being very crispy, the sear really added a lot of flavor to this recipe as well. So I decided to give this recipe a 9 out of 10 overall. Anyway, as always, if you have any recommendations for recipes you want me to try, you can let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching.